बूढ़त संसारा नानक बाह पकड़ सतगुरु निस्तारा. Hello. In this lecture, we're going to continue with Sikh history, and what we're looking at is the founding of the community through the lives of the 10 Sikh Gurus, going from the founder Guru Nanak through the 10th human Guru, Guru Gobind Singh. And I'm devoting a whole lecture to Guru Gobind Singh because of how significant he was in terms of shaping the community at the time and its future. So Guru Gobind, as I've said, was the 10th human Guru, and he was born in the late, just after the middle of the 17th century, and he passed away in 1708, right at the beginning of the 18th century. This painting is a copy of probably an 18th century or maybe early 19th century painting. It shows Guru Gobind Singh on a horse, carrying a sword. He has retainers who are holding a royal symbol over him, and you might be able to see that his turban also has a feather in it. He's also holding a falcon, and all of these symbolic representations are not only factual, they're accurate. This is how Guru Gobind Singh presented himself, but they're also significant in terms of what they tell us about Guru Gobind Singh's role in the Sikh community. So if you remember, in particular, Guru Har Gobind, after the killing of his father Guru Arjan, had said that one could no longer trust the political authorities, the Mughal Empire, and said that he would act as the temporal leader of the community as well as the spiritual leader. And this tradition was very much embodied by Guru Gobind. The execution of Guru Gobind's father, Guru Tegh Bahadur, did not end the conflict with the Mughals. There were, even though the community was by now very much beleaguered and under attack, still represented a potential threat to the Mughals. So the life of Guru Gobind was marked by continual struggles with the Mughals and also with local vassal rulers of the Mughals in Punjab. And these rulers were often Hindus. So the conflict here was just as much political as it was religious. In these struggles, there were a number of battles in which the Sikhs had to fight for survival against larger imperial forces. In one of these battles in 1704, Guru Gobind's two older sons, who were teenagers at the time, were actually killed during the fighting. And shortly after that, Guru Gobind Singh's two younger sons, he had four sons, were executed by one of the local governors in Punjab, one of the local governors of the Mughal emperor, and his name was Wazir Khan. Guru Gobind sought justice for this atrocity from the Mughal emperor Aurangzeb. So he actually wrote a very powerful letter known as the Zafarnama to the Mughal emperor asking for justice. But before he could actually meet the emperor agreed to meet him. Before he could meet the emperor, Aurangzeb passed away, and before Guru Gobind could meet his successor, he was actually assassinated by an agent of Wazir Khan. The martyrdom of Guru Gobind Singh's younger sons was particularly horrific. They were, according to tradition, they were again given the option of converting to Islam, but when they refused, they were killed by being bricked alive. And this is a 20th century painting which represents that the artist's vision of what that action looked like. A few years ago, a movie was made which told the story of Guru Gobind's 4 sons, and that movie is known as Char Sahebzade, Char being 4, and Sahebzada being meaning prince. The Char Sahebzade movie trailer that is referred to in the slide, you can find on Canvas and watch it there. And it's just a 4-minute clip, the trailer. It's very interesting. It's an animated feature because it would be considered to be inappropriate to have live actors playing the role of the Guru or his sons, but it's a very effective animation and it really gives you a sense of the life and times of Guru Gobind Singh and his sons and the struggles they were undergoing. So I'd recommend watching that. So before the death of his sons, Guru Gobind was already seeking to revitalize and strengthen the Sikh community. And what he did in 1699, on the first day of the month of Vesak, which is a month in the traditional Indian lunar calendar, he created what is known as the Khalsa. And Khalsa can be translated as pure. The Khalsa then became an important self-selected order of the Sikhs. Guru Gobind created a new initiation ceremony, and the first 5 individuals who accepted this initiation are known as the Panj Pyare, Panj being 5 and Pyare being beloved. The purpose of the Khalsa here was to re-emphasize social equality and social justice. And very significantly, after initiating the Panj Pyare in the Khalsa, the Guru himself asked to be initiated by these first 5 members of the Khalsa, and it indicated a reversal of the roles of Guru and disciple. In this sense, it represented a continuation of the tradition that began with Guru Nanak. When Guru Nanak appointed Angad as his successor, he became Guru Angad became Guru, and Nanak became the disciple of the new Guru. So this is an important Sikh tradition where you can see the continuity. The difference here, of course, being that now it is members of the community who are representing the leadership, acting as Guru, and initiating the Guru as their disciple symbolically. So here's a 20th century painting of Guru Gobind, and I'll tell you a little bit more of the story of this occasion. The account of this dates from not exactly from that time, but just from maybe a decade later. And according to the story, Guru Gobind asked for volunteers one by one, and he took them behind a curtain or into a tent. And after taking each volunteer behind, he emerged from the tent with a bloody sword. So as far as the assembled crowd knew, Guru Gobind was sacrificing these volunteers for some purpose, unknown purpose. But after he had selected 5 volunteers. So these people were then willing to sacrifice themselves physically. After he had selected these 5, then he emerged with all of them in fresh new clothes and initiated them, and then told the rest of the assembled congregation that the Khalsa was now going to be the new form of the Sikh community. So this is a very significant event in Sikh history and Sikh imagination, and I'm going to spend quite a bit of the lecture talking about this and what its meaning and implications were. So the Khalsa then is a self-selected order of Sikhs. It very quickly became the dominant Sikh identity. How it's understood, there's many different aspects of this. One metaphor that has been used is that Guru Gobind wanted to turn sparrows into hawks, that he wanted Sikhs never again to be afraid of oppression, and he did not want Sikhs to be able to deny their faith. So the symbolism of the Khalsa was that any member of the Khalsa would be openly proclaiming their faith. There was going to be no dissembling or hiding of the faith. Some accounts relate this to what happened after the execution of Guru Tegh Bahadur, where the executed Guru's body just lay in the public square, and no Sikh was willing to acknowledge that they were followers of the Guru and take possession of the body. It was only after dark, when the imperial authorities were not there, that a Sikh took away the body and cremated it. So besides this symbolism or injunction to stand up for the faith and stand up for justice for all, the symbolism of the Khalsa was also to emphasize equality. So men and women who joined the Khalsa took on new names. Men became Singhs. Singh means lion. And so, in fact, Gobind up to this time was actually Gobind Rai, became Gobind Singh. And women took on the name Kaur. Kaur is sometimes translated as princess, but in fact, it literally means prince. And but it has been used for women's surnames, so it's sometimes translated as princess. But it actually comes from a Hindi word kamar, which actually literally means prince. So again, you have this emphasis also on gender equality as well in this way. So the Khalsa became a symbol of equality and standing up for justice for all. And again, we can connect this to the account of how Guru Tegh Bahadur went to his certain execution at the behest of not of his own followers, not the Sikh community, but of Kashmiri Hindus. One can conjecture as to the symbolism of the number 5 in the Panj Pyare, and of course one can connect this to Punjab, the land of 5 rivers, and there are also other examples of the symbolic significance of the number 5 in Sikh tradition. So another occurrence of the number 5 is in what have become the 5 articles of faith of the Khalsa, and this formulation is not found directly in Guru Gobind Singh's writings, but again it appears fairly early on in the Khalsa tradition after the events of Baisakhi 1699. These 5 articles of faith are known as the 5 Ks, or in Punjabi, Panj Kakar, kakar being the sound of K. And in Punjabi, the 5 Ks are called kesh, which is uncut hair, kanga, a wooden comb, kada, a steel bracelet, kachera, a specific style of cotton underwear, and kirpan, a strapped curved sword. Now, each of these articles of faith has some symbolic weight. Here on this slide, I've given you one set of interpretations. The kesh is a spiritual symbol, a gift from and bond with the Guru. And the turban, which is also worn by Sikhs, by members of the Khalsa and other Sikhs, is viewed as a protector of the kesh and also a symbol of leadership, spiritual and temporal. The kanga is a symbol of discipline, emphasizing the importance of keeping one's hair neat rather than the unkempt or matted hair of traditional Hindu holy men. And the kada, as a circle, is a symbol of continuity, and the steel is a symbol of strength. The kachera is a symbol of self-discipline and ethical conduct, and the kirpan is then very obviously a symbol of and practical instrument of protection of all and of self-defense. So the interpretations I've given here are my synthesis of different interpretations that one can find in various places. So as with any other symbols, different individuals will attach meanings in ways that resonate with themselves. So while on this slide I've given what I think are good interpretations of the five Ks, the symbolic weight of these 5 Ks, you can also find different interpretations, and on the Canvas page you'll find links to Wikipedia articles for each of these 5 Ks, and you can look at some alternative interpretations. So here's just a pictorial representation. You can see the kesh, the long hair. Then to the right of that on the screen is the kirpan. You can see that it has a sheath. There's a strap. So the kirpan would be traditionally worn around on one shoulder and then hanging from the side. It's sometimes worn underneath an overgarment, a loose shirt. Then you see the kanga, the small wooden comb, and then the kachera and kada on the right. So and you can see the kesh, just the long hair on the left, and then tied up into a traditional top knot on the right. And these 5 Ks would be then observed by members of the Khalsa, both male and female. I'd like to just talk a little bit about this painting of Guru Gobind Singh. And again, it just reflects his importance in the Sikh tradition. Here, this is a 20th century painting. You can see, in fact, some Western or even Christian imagery in terms of the dove. But what you see is Guru Gobind Singh as a hero, as a brave warrior, riding on a horse with his sword. The sword has sacred verses engraved on it. In the background, you can see actually a fortress, which represents one of the small fortresses that Guru Gobind Singh built to protect the community from attacks of the Mughal imperial forces and their allies. And you see Guru Gobind Singh crossing a river, and this actually is representative of actual events in his life, where he had to escape from the Mughal forces. They were subject to a surprise attack and were under heavy pressure. And Guru Gobind Singh's followers basically forced him to leave the field of battle, cross a river, and so that at least he could survive. So in the Sikh imagination, Guru Gobind Singh has and I use this with a little bit of hesitation, has almost a messianic quality. And the fact that the Khalsa and the Khalsa symbols are a creation of Guru Gobind Singh makes them extremely significant for the followers of the Sikh faith, even 300 years later. So returning to the march of events, Guru Gobind Singh created the Khalsa in 1699. By 1705, he had lost all 4 of his sons and was really struggling to keep the community together and strong. And the other major decision he took, which again had a lasting impact on the community, was to end the line of human gurus. And in 1708, he appointed the sacred text, the Granth Sahib, as the eternal guru of the Sikhs. So this was the Ad Granth of 1604, which was compiled by Guru Arjan, plus the writings of Guru Tegh Bahadur, which had been added in. And this became the Guru Granth Sahib. So from that time onward, and of course even during the lifetime of the Gurus, the Granth Sahib represented the everyday guide for practicing Sikhs. It's a source of spiritual comfort. It's a source of ethical guidance. Sikhs, devout Sikhs, will typically read from it daily. They will turn to it for guidance. And because it represents the Guru, the spirit of Guru Nanak, it is, and by the time of Guru Gobind Singh, the Sikh Guru was also the temporal leader and took on the marks of royalty. The Guru Granth Sahib is treated with the symbolism of a highly respected person and also the markers of royalty, reflecting the temporal authority of the human Sikh Gurus. This painting, again, is from the 20th century, and it's the artist's imagination of the Guru Gobind Singh, acknowledging the Guru Granth Sahib as the eternal Guru of the Sikhs. And so again, you have a reversal of the role of Guru and disciple, where the Guru becomes the disciple. And the Guru Granth Sahib from then onward has been the Guru, the spiritual teacher, spiritual guide of the Sikhs. I'd like to close with just an interesting visual. The 200 years of the history of the Sikh Gurus are paralleled with the rise and beginning of the fall of the Mughal Empire, and what I've juxtaposed are 2 somewhat different representations of those successions. On the right, actually, you have probably a late 17th or early 18th century, or maybe even late 18th century painting, which has Jahangir in the middle, and Jahangir is shown as a world conqueror with a bow and arrow. In this representation, the surrounding figures are actually meant to represent the ancestors of Jahangir. So what Jahangir is trying to do is to emphasize, or the artist is trying to do, is to emphasize the authority of Jahangir as coming down to him through his great ancestors. There's also some interesting Western imagery in terms of cherubs at the top and a lion and a lamb at the bottom. And so there's a lot of richness in this symbolism. What I want to do is to contrast this with the painting on the left, which is, of course, a painting of the 10 Sikh gurus. In the center, you have actually the founder, and then you have the succession of gurus surrounding him. At the top, you also have a symbol of the Khalsa with crossed swords and a steel circle. In the portrait of Guru Nanak, he is also accompanied by Mardana and Bala. Again, this is the artist's imagination. So I don't know if there are similar images of the Mughals in the form of the painting on the right, but one can find many paintings of the 10 Sikh gurus. Sometimes they're shown actually seated together in a more horizontal composition, all imagined seated in one room. In this case, I chose an example which was more vertical and more similar to the Mughal example on the right. In some of these paintings, rather than having Guru Nanak at the center, Guru Nanak is in the circle of 10 gurus around, and the center is occupied by the Guru Granth Sahib. So one has variations on this symbolism, but what is, I think, important to note is, again, the portraits of the gurus represent the fact and emphasize the fact that they are spiritual leaders foremost, even though they were sometimes forced to take up arms in self-defense to protect their community. And that's in contrast to the representation on the right, which is, of course, just a projection of imperial power and authority. So these are very important themes in Sikh history. Standing up to oppression, standing up for social justice, standing up for justice for all. And we'll see how those themes play out in subsequent Sikh history as well.